Gilbert, this weekend, you and I will both be at the Tank Davis and David Benavidez fight. Let's start off with Benavidez. What are you expecting when he goes up against Oleksandr? Oh crap, Gvozdyk.
That's pretty good, but yeah,
Okay,
that's actually not that bad.
okay. What do you expect? Like, does he need to K him to knock him out? And then grab the microphone, pull a WWE, and or pull a Canelo. Canelo, where are you, my friend? One, two. Do you think Canelo's there?
Oh no, he will not be at the fight. He's not, like, obviously when you're the best, and speaking of face of whatever,
Well, yeah,
face of
they
boxing,
call you out.
they call you out. He won't be there, and it's actually kind of funny because after Canelo beat Jaime Munguia, he kept pointing at the crowd.
Yeah.
And people thought he was trying to tell Benavidez come into the ring. He was pointing at Peso Pluma and all the Grupo Firme guy, I forgot, Edwin, all the Mexican singers to come up to the ring, and Benavidez was behind them. Benavidez was like talking to me, so it was a little embarrassing there for him. It wasn't for him. So Canelo's trying this whole thing. We're like, who are you? You're a nobody, and pay me $200 million to fight this guy who's a nobody. So going off of that, and the best way to get Canelo is build a name for yourself, have a dominant win. If you knock out, I call him the Nail because his nickname the Nail, Givo. What did you had it better than I can't say it. But Alexander Givo, the Nail. If you knock him out, Bosque, there you go, in dominant fashion, and maybe inside 8 rounds, and now you hear the whispers turn into shouting. What the hell are you doing, Canelo? Stop ducking the guy. He's a monster. You're afraid of him. You need a dominant performance and knock out the guy. He's a former light heavyweight champion. He hasn't really done much in the last few years. I remember he was a top prospect for Top Rank. So when I heard his name resurface, I'm like, oh, okay, a nice little step up fight. It's not the best fight for David Benavidez. So when you got somebody you're supposed to be better than, you better immediately take care of the guy, knock him out, and then obviously do your call out for Canelo Alvarez. And all signs point to Canelo, maybe fighting Terrence Crawford. If I'm Benavidez and you knock out the Nail there, you better say, hey, oh, you're ducking me. You're going to go fight Terrence Crawford. The guy's so small, a welterweight champion. You're a super middleweight. That'll be a B word out to do that. So I think Benavidez needs to be dominant, call him out, put pressure on Canelo, and make that fight happen.
So obviously, we know that Tank Davis was with Floyd Mayweather. So before in the past, he's going to be going up against Frank Martin. Is Tank basically pointing at the easy work and saying, to take that line from Floyd Mayweather, and saying, oh, this will be easy work. Y'all are going to remember who I am? Or do you feel like Frank will give him a little bit of a tough time, especially because his trainer is also Ryan Garcia's trainer, and I don't think he wasn't his trainer for the Gervonta fight, but I'm sure he's seen the film and he kind of knows what style might not slow down, but at least give Tank a little bit of trouble.
Yeah, I think on paper for Tank Davis, this could be his toughest fight. I think his toughest fight to date is Pitbull Cruz, but it's a little similar because when Pitbull Cruz fought Tank Davis, nobody thought Pitbull had a chance. Nobody knew the name Pitbull, and then he pushed Tank Davis and he became a star in the boxing world, especially in the Mexican boxing community. So it could be something like that because at the time Pitbull didn't have like a resume. You didn't really see his signature victories, but he looked tough. And obviously you want to get that Mexican audience, so they put him against Gervonta Tank Davis. It kind of backfired because they were not expecting that type of tough fight. I think this time around they're expecting Frank Martin to be good. Like, you're at the point with Tank Davis where you can't be cherry picking. You need to have some good fights here. But he's a good fighter who hasn't been tested. So the Mayweather kind of method, selective picking there, where you go from cherry picking to like, okay, let's bring it up a notch, a little tougher competition though. But like guys who haven't been tested or too experienced, haven't gone in deep waters. That's Frank Martin. He's about to be, I think, 28, 29. That's kind of older for a boxer who hasn't been tested like that. So the competition level is going to go pretty high up. But he passes the eye test. It's going to be a good, tough competition. So, obviously I'm going to take Tank Davis to win. Same thing with David Benavidez. But I think Frank Martin could definitely push Gervonta. And maybe if Gervonta is overlooking Frank Martin and maybe trying to fight Lomachenko at the end of the year, that could maybe cause him some issues. But like I mentioned, I think Tank Davis is one of the top 5 pound-for-pound fighters on the planet. I think very highly of him in terms of being a fighter. Dangerous uppercut, good footwork. he has it all. So I think he's gonna knock him out.
I agree with both with you on both fights. When it comes to Tank, is that kind of what he's looking at next? Lomachenko, and obviously for Benavidez, calling out Canelo in a sense if they both win.
I would do it because again, like I mentioned, you go from cherry picking to okay, tougher competition, but no experience. Now you go to tough but with experience, but older. That's the last kind of hurdle. A guy who's a little older but experienced but tough. That's Lomachenko. And then to kind of finish the Mayweather thing is you fight an elite fighter in their prime who's been tested, and maybe that could be down the line. I don't know. It could be Ryan Garcia again because we've seen it again. But the thing with Tank though, he's small. So what's the limit for him? Is it 140? Do you go try fighting Shakur Stevenson, who's not really a big name but very skillful fighter? So that's kind of like the path for Tank Davis. And I'll say this real quick, kind of a random thought, Fernando. I do like that Tank Davis left the Mayweather brand. He was in the shadow of Floyd Mayweather there, and then we went to that press conference in Vegas before the Canelo Munguia fight. He started talking. He started promoting himself. He started being a star and being his own mouthpiece because Mayweather was doing all the talking. He's like, yeah, I'm the protege. I'm the next guy up and coming. And we rarely heard from the guy. Then we heard him at that press conference. He was funny and outgoing. And then he's hanging out with Canelo Alvarez to kind of raise his profile because I'm sure Mayweather was saying, why are you going to hang out with Canelo? You got me. And he's hanging out with Canelo, having a good time with the Munguia Canelo fight. I like that different side of Gervonta. Obviously, stay out of trouble. I remember, I think at the presser, he said he kind of, hated being in, I guess, that fake jail. He had nothing else to do but tweet, and it kind of gave him a little wake-up call. So we'll see what he does for his next kind of chapter in his career.
Yeah, no, and what did he say? He's like, I'm gonna have to take it. He's like, I feel bad for this guy. I'm gonna have to take out all my frustrations on him. And you're like, damn. Gilbert, by the way, you did mention Ryan Garcia, obviously friend of the show. He's been on here before, but this was a video of him on last week. I think it was June 8th. Was it Saturday? I think it was Saturday. Yeah. He was arrested at the Beverly Hills Hotel. That's where we were for the Canelo one, right? The presser.
I want to say that's where it was too. The name sounded very familiar.
Okay, yeah, that's where we were, Gilbert. And just what are your thoughts right now of what happened? Supposedly, allegedly, he vandalized his hotel room, and then he came out into the hallway or whatever and started vandalizing that as well, according to TMZ.
I kind of want to have some mixed feelings here. Obviously, the old school guy in me, the hard ass, the tough guy's like, enough is enough, man. You're a grown man now. Stop doing dumb crap like that. But then also you think about what he's gone through with the mental health stuff, and then also I think he announced that his mom has breast cancer, so that can't be easy to deal with. And then all the pressure that he's had, and obviously when you try to troll that hard and promote that hard, you start maybe believing your lies sometimes, or then you have a big victory like that, and you start feeling yourself sometimes, and you do dumb crap like that, and you add it with the whole personal stuff with the mom being sick. And I don't know, maybe there's some dumb choices. I'm not really sure exactly what he did to. I think I read $15,000 in damage at the hotel room. So obviously they called the cops there, and they weren't having, especially that type of hotel where it's kind of like a historic kind of hotel. You don't want to mess around kind of history with that. So, obviously he has to grow up. Maybe he needs some time away. Stop trying to promote a fight with Earl Spence Jr. Stop trying to fight Sebastian Fundora. All these dumb fights are just because you're trying to promote and keep your name in the headlines. Take a break, chill out, be with your mom, take care of yourself, take care of your mental health. But part of him is kind of like, dude, like enough is enough. Like then he got popped for the whole steroids thing. Again, I don't know what to believe, but just knowing his track record and his background of kind of doing some weird stuff, shady stuff, I don't know what to believe. Like I would want to side with the whole, being a good promoter and also dealing with the stuff at home. With him, it's kind of like it gets tiring after a while. So I don't know what to say or what to lean on here. But obviously, take some time away, chill out, be with your family.
Yeah, and that's kind of the issue. Also, is that so many people depend on him that it's like, okay, like I'm sure that pressure also is a lot. I mean, I'm sure his whole family kind of depends on him for all that stuff. So it's just sad to see, especially with because he's so talented, and it's not just the boxing side, but the social media side. I mean, the guy, people like watching him. I mean, you saw that I just put a 6-second TikTok of him on a horse, and I got like almost 2 million views on it on Terra, 1.5 or something like that. People care about the guy, and people want to see what the guy does.
1.7 million views on our YouTube channel for the show.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I mean, there's been a lot of different things that he obviously has brought, but just hopefully he can get it together and kind of get it going because obviously the dude's talented and I'm sure he's going through a lot right now. But and like you said, sometimes I mean, and I know I kind of throw it back to wrestling, but that's kind of the beast that I know more. I've heard wrestlers before say that sometimes they believe the character that they are, and sometimes they turn into that character, especially when they've been drinking
Hmm.
or doing other stuff, and that's kind of the risk that you run because sometimes you turn into that. I mean, you saw the movie The Mask, right?
Yeah.
With Jim Carrey. Well, if you remember, the doctor, the psychiatrist, whatever you want to call him, the guy tells him we all wear masks,
Yeah.
like we all are different people and everything, and that's the interesting part. Sometimes these guys believe all that, and they believe that they're bigger than the world, and they should get everything. And I'm not saying that's Ryan, but I'm just saying sometimes you see all that stuff and you believe all that stuff. So
It's not a lie if you believe it.
yeah,
George from
exactly,
Seinfeld once
exactly.
said.
So, hopefully that's why right now when Dan and I and Melissa we're driving back from Costco and Dan's like, "Yeah, my hot takes." I'm like, "What do you mean hot takes? Your right takes?" He's like, "Exactly, my right takes." And I just started laughing. I'm like, "This guy." But yeah, hopefully Ryan kind of gets it. I mean, is able to get it together. And I mean, Gilbert, you saw Brooklyn was pro Ryan Garcia. They wanted to see Ryan Garcia win. So hopefully he can get it together. Don Corion says, "Good afternoon, fellas. How you doing, man?" Gilbert, before
Love the name, love
we
the
head,
picture.
I know. Before we head over to wrestling, you spoke about Ryan Garcia and how much damage he did to the hotel room. Well, there's a rumor out there that Ryan and Devin have not been paid for the fight, and Golden Boy came out and said, as we have always done with all of our fighters, Golden Boy paid Ryan and Devin exactly what they were owed under their contracts. As with all pay-per-view events, revenue comes in over time and additional payments will be made when more money is received. If they aren't aware of this fact, we would hope that their managers are, or perhaps Ryan and Devin should pay more attention to their contracts than their social media feeds.
You would
Uh
never see that type of statement in the NFL world, by the way.
Dude, that would never happen. And this seems like Oscar de la Hoya kind of statement. But Gilbert, what and I think well no, go ahead
No,
and
well, I'm just trying to think of the date. So the fight was April 20th, 420, right?
I think it's
Smoking
been
on Devin
50
Haney.
days and they have 90 days to pay them
I've never been paid millions of dollars. So I don't know how long it takes, but usually
yeah,
kind of
that's kind
you
of what I've
expect a
been
month,
seeing.
right? After a month, you kind of
Yeah.
either get a stipend or after obviously not, it's not bi-weekly for these type of salaries. So
No, hell no.
I'm sure they get an antsy, and then you start hearing what other fighters have said about Golden Boy, and Canelo Alvarez has been at the forefront of this. Like, hey, Oscar's a little shady here, but you know what? It hasn't been that long. I'm sure they'll get their money eventually. But with all the promotion, all the money put into it, we did see the venue at the Barclays wasn't totally filled to capacity. We also know about illegal streaming that might have hurt the pay-per-view numbers. So, hey, maybe they're hurting for money, but I'm not gonna say all that. I think De La Hoya, who's made a lot of money in his career, who's been a good promoter in his career, there's been some good, a lot of some bad in it, but a lot of good too. So I'm gonna try to be patient with them. And I think they're young kids who do spend a lot of time on social media. So I don't blame De La Hoya for making that shot there.
And if you notice, De La Hoya just copy and pasted. So I don't know if he's the one that wrote it or
Oh,
what,
for
but
sure, he's hit that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So that
I
was
do like
definitely
that his side of a promoter is kind of like Dana White, but like I don't care what you say. He's picking
yeah.
fights with Canelo, picking fights with Ryan Garcia, and it's like, hey, sometimes you kind of need that for the promotion.
No, I completely agree with you when it comes to that. That's just it's gonna be interesting. I mean, because I think they have 90 days from what I read. So
Okay.
so that'll be interesting
You
to
know what's
see.
weird too? They released that statement even though they already knew that Ryan Garcia got arrested. They care more about their them not being able to pay people. They cared about
Yeah.
changing that narrative and not with Ryan Garcia being arrested.
Mimsy says Golden Boy has had too many shady deals for me to put any trust in them, especially lately. Yeah, no, that's completely I completely understand that. Gilbert, this will be the 100th boxing event at the MGM this week, and some of the best fights obviously Julio Cesar Chavez Sr. versus Frankie Randall, George Foreman, Michael Moore, Mike Tyson, Evander Holyfield 2, the bite fight, obviously. Juan Manuel Marquez KOing Manny Pacquiao, Mayweather versus De La Hoya. Which has kind of been your favorite, Gilbert, or which one's the one that stands out the most to you?
Yeah, there's so many. When I found out, that Tank Davis and Frank Martin is going to be the 100th main event boxing event at the MGM Grand Arena, I started thinking about all the fights that occurred there in 1994 when they opened the hotel there in the arena. Before that, the big place in Las Vegas was the outdoor arena at the Caesar's Palace. A lot of great fights occurred, but then it moved over to indoors at the MGM Grand. Now it's going to be T-Mobile Arena. But I love I guess the atmosphere at the MGM Grand. I got to cover a couple of fights there when I was in Las Vegas. It's not the biggest venue. I think it seats about 12,000 or 14,000. T-Mobile was 20,000, so a little more intimate setting. And that's when you used to. That's during the days when you used to sit ringside, not when they sold out the ringside seats for the rich people. But you're right there, man. I even watched Conor McGregor there knock out Jose Aldo. Amazing venue, and you're gonna experience that for
Yeah,
Tank
I've never done.
Davis and Frank Martin. Historic. But you mentioned the movie, the George Foreman movie when he beat Michael Moore in 1994 when he was 45 years old. He came back to fight because he needed money
Yeah,
to build the church, right? And nobody thought he's going to beat a heavyweight world champion. He did it at 45 years old, and then he got the Foreman grill, and it took off. Like, it's wild how much his career changed from being this dominant monster who was a Mike Tyson before Mike Tyson. Then he got beaten by Muhammad Ali. That's a story right there. And he had to reinvent himself. He retired. He went a different path. He was nicer to people. Then he needed money, and he comes back at 45. By the way, Manny Pacquiao saying he might come back and fight
I
at
saw
45.
that.
So
Yeah,
I don't want to. I don't. He did win a couple of times. He beat Keith Thurman. I don't know if he should come back, but hey, George Foreman
if
did
it's
it.
in Vegas, we have to be there.
Yeah, it'd be pretty cool. But I don't like when older fighters come back. But then
Neither
I got
do
to
I.
remember about George Foreman doing that. Obviously, Mike Tyson and Evander Holyfield 2 was a bite fight. And then one that, I'll give you the last two here. Juan Manuel Marquez being,
I
no, not
remember that.
being, knocking out Manny Pacquiao in 2012, one of the, most devastating knockouts around the world and one of the most surprising. And then this one, I like to highlight Mayweather versus De La Hoya in 2007. I know exactly where I was for that one. That's when you saw Mayweather go from Pretty Boy Floyd to Money Mayweather, and he pretty much took the star power from De La Hoya because he's on the way out, beat him, and then became Money Mayweather, and the career took off right there.
And that's all she wrote.